another level, I guess.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Wow.
Welcome back to another
I am moving this
episode
back.
of Heart of Gratitude. I am Bethany Jordan.
I'm Serena.
And we have had some morning. We have had some morning.
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Hello. It is afternoon.
1:24. Some people's mornings.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I guess some people's mornings. It's funny. My morning consisted of like the most girl breakfast and lunch, you know. For breakfast I had a cup of coffee, and then later on I had one peach, and then for lunch before leaving I picked at some rotisserie chicken.
Nice.
And that was my lunch. And I just kind of chuckled and I was like, that is such a typical, like, you know, girl meal
What
where
have I
it's
had?
just like,
I've had a Nutri-Grain bar and coffee,
nice.
but I think I'm gonna pick up lunch on the way home.
No, yeah, I'm definitely gonna need more food because,
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, and then, I mean, as you guys already know, we had such a problem with the mics today that it took us,
I would literally take this and smash it against the wall if I could.
It's like all you're gonna hear in the episode is like boom. Just like
No, I think it's my problem is with GarageBand. I think
no, yeah.
the problem was not with the mic. I actually really do like these mics, but I think the problem is with GarageBand, and if I could move us to a different platform, I would.
So yeah, but we're here. What's something you've been obsessed with this week?
Oof. Something I've been obsessed with this week. Honestly, which is so extra, and it's not, you don't need to do this at all, but it's making my notes in my Bible pretty. And I've just been loving doing that because it just helps me learn with all the different, like, colors and everything. Like, I have a bit of a system, and it's historical context, any, like, Hebrew translation, and just, like, thought points go on sticky notes, and then verses, like, their meanings or, like, what I got out of the verses gets written straight in the Bible, and I've been kind of obsessed with that.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm the type of person that, yeah, like, you like to make all of your stuff nice, organized.
Yeah.
There's, like, everything about you, there's, like, this aesthetically pleasing, like...
There's a systematic approach to a lot of things.
Me, I am quite the opposite. There is no systematic approach. There is just approach. And none of it makes sense. It's just a bunch of just
It makes sense to you.
thrown together. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It definitely makes sense to me. But we'll have to show you guys eventually, like, the differences from Serena's Bible to my Bible. It's just very funny because me, it's just, like, all thrown together. And then, yeah, you have, like, a system for everything. And it's just like, I wish I was that person.
I also have only ever, I'm trying to think if there's any exceptions. There's one Bible that I have that's not a journaling Bible. All of my other Bibles have been journaling Bibles. So over the years, I've been able to put together a system. The system's changed over time. Fun fact, I don't underline ever in my Bibles. I only highlight.
Oh, I do. I have both. Yeah, you know, it's kind of gotten, like, a little messy. I, like, highlight, underline, write. I'll date. Also, if it's, like, in a notebook, I'll date the notebook, and if I underline a scripture verse and I wrote something in that notebook about that scripture verse, I'll, like, date it so I know that, go to this date in this book.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, but I don't keep up with these. So there'll be random dates. Do I know where this notebook is? No.
I've been watching a lot of people, which I'm also obsessed with. I don't personally do this just because I don't really keep a notebook because I have all the notes in my Bible, but nice.
I almost fall off.
There's a bracket, like, under the table,
Yes,
and that's what
and
we
I
put our
like
feet
to
on.
rest my feet, and it slipped. Yes, so...
So people that have notebooks that are smaller than their Bibles, they actually insert the notes into their Bible.
Oh, okay.
And all
so
you
it's
have to
just
do is take a glue stick and, like, put it on the side of the page and boop, right in.
See, that's too much work. Does that sound bad? That's just like, I mean, I don't know. I can't sit down and do a craft like that. I don't know. It's just so easy to just keep my one pen.
Yeah.
And just write whenever, something I want to write down kind of thing. I don't know. What I want to do is start getting sticky tabs because there's no room anymore in some of the parts of my Bible. So start putting more notes, just have sticky tabs. But yeah.
What have you been obsessed with?
I had an answer, and then as you were answering, I completely forgot. And that's why I asked you. I was like, oh, I've been obsessed with this. But now I'm just like, I don't remember what I was going to say. But
was it food? I
couldn't tell you.
Oh. Rip to the thought.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But that's
I hope you have a transition.
No, I have no transition plan.
I thought that was going to be the transition.
No.
Wow.
No transition planned whatsoever. So we can just hard pivot right into what we're actually going to talk about.
We love a hard pivot. That's from 3 episodes ago? I was on my deathbed when we said that.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's probably 3 or 4 episodes ago.
Yeah. So we are still on the armor of God. We went through all of the pieces of the armor that, Paul's written down here. So the belt of truth, we have the shoes of the gospel, we have the shield of faith, the breastplate of righteousness, the sword of the spirit, and the helmet of salvation. And we went through each and every one of them. So if you haven't watched any of them, they're up there for you to watch. And then we're gonna finish off with the last few verses. Not today. I think there's we have today and then one more we want to do.
For me and you, it's today and tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode tomorrow too.
Everybody was like, "Wow, late night for Heart of Gratitude." And
I know, right?
Come on.
No, yeah, we've done late episodes, just not here.
Yeah.
But it's going to be here.
Back to me petitioning for only recording here.
Yeah. If desperate, if
absolutely desperate times call for desperate message, we'll go to my house.
Yes. Yeah.
But you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. When I post today's reel, you'll see the difference.
Yes. Anyway, we will jump right into it. We're struggling to get right in. I blame it on the mics. I blame it on the mics.
I hope you can hear. I just muted my mic. I hope you can hear it in that mic.
So let me read the passage. Ephesians 6. Okay. 10 through 20. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand firm, stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. Yep. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints, and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. And so what we wanted to do is talk about now verse 18, and specifically talking about, prayer and how important it is. And yes, Paul doesn't give it like a physical piece of armor, but this is probably one of the more powerful, weapons that we have in spiritual warfare. So yeah, it doesn't get like a physical, there are other weapons that people have in that time have used, their spears, arrows, all of this. So even so, it doesn't have one of those, it is a very powerful, tool and, weapon that we can use. So verse 18, praying at all times in the Spirit with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints. So we wanted to break down prayer and how we can use this in spiritual warfare.
Yeah, and it's something that I think we tend to really take for granted is the power of prayer. And it's funny because my mom, the woman I swear is 99.9% of the time, she's always right. And gonna leave room forever there. But she has been saying since we were young, like, you guys, she would say it in a way that would make me think. She was like, you guys don't understand, like, prayer is so powerful, and when you experience I don't want to say the after effects, but when you experience prayer and you experience power in prayer, like, there's nothing that comes, like, to compare to that.
Yeah.
And we have to constantly remind ourselves that this is communication that we have directly with God. Like, growing up in a Catholic household, like, I had to go to confession. Yeah, so I was the only one, I don't know if Justin did, but I was the only one that made it as far as almost making confirmation. So I was like, I did communion, I did confession, next would be confirmation.
Okay.
It's so creepy.
I was about to say, how was that experience?
You sit in this room and, like, nobody's in the room. Like, the priest isn't in there. He's, like, behind a wall somewhere. And, like, he can hear what you're saying, but you can't see him. So you're, like, talking into the abyss. And, like, as a kid going to confession, what are you going to confess? I stole my brother's toy?
Yeah,
like,
I was about to say.
I sat in the room and I was like, I don't know. Like, I called my brother annoying. Like, what do you expect from, like, an 11 or 12, however old you are? Like, when you go to confession, like, we thankfully, when we come to salvation and when we accept Jesus, like, that is already direct line of communication with God. Like, we don't have a mediator. We don't have, like, a priest that's like, oh, yeah, like, I'll relay this to God. Like, what?
Well, our mediator is Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to.
And what's...
It's not a physical person. It's not a person that's like, I'll relay this to God.
No, like, human, like, you or I kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. But what's crazy is that when it comes to prayer, like, it doesn't matter how pretty or how, like, disorganized a prayer is, the fact that, Jesus is the one bringing it to the feet of God, you know? So it doesn't matter how, like, even if our prayer is just crying.
Yeah.
Jesus is able to, intercede for us and bring that to the, the feet of God. Yes, there is a verse.
I hate when I don't remember. Yeah. And I was thinking about it the whole time prepping.
9 times out of 10, there is a verse.
Yeah, like, because I have it written somewhere in here that it literally doesn't matter. Like, you can use any, like, if you're the type of person to pray and you pray in, like, this, like, I don't want to say flamboyant because that makes it sound bad, but, like, you use, like, eloquent speech and words, like, that's great. Like, pray. Like, I'm not going to tell you don't do that. But if you're also somebody like me, half the time, like, I'm just like, God, like, I don't know what to say. Like, open my eyes, open my heart to what you want me to see as far as my sin goes, as far as, like, what I'm struggling with, what I need to work on. Because half the time, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what I could be struggling with something, but in turn, I could be doing really well with something else. But that could also be me, like, struggling also.
Yeah.
Hiding.
No, absolutely.
So, I don't know. That just went, like, all over in my notes somewhere. I found it. So, I had said something like, prayer can be as small as thanking God for another day as soon as you wake up, but as big as praying for a miracle over somebody's life. Like, there's no, Jesus gives us...
There's no bounds.
Yeah, there's no bounds.
There's no,
Jesus gives us a formula, a format of how to pray, but what we say is not confound. It's not We don't have to like conform to boundaries.
Yeah, we don't have to say pray in a specific way for God to hear us,
like,
you know?
Mecca for 6 times a day.
Yeah. So Romans 8:26. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. And then there is a Charles Spurgeon quote where it says, groans that words cannot express are often prayers that God cannot refuse. So we have that person to bring it to God. And it doesn't have to be like we were saying, it doesn't have to be a perfect prayer, but God sees our heart. God knows what we're going through. God, you know, he is the one who creates like the well put together prayer and brings it to God almost. And so when it comes to in spiritual warfare, you know, in this verse, there's like two different parts to this verse. So first it says praying at all times in the Spirit. So, you know, there is this sense of perpetual prayer. We have to constantly be in prayer. And you were kind of saying this before, where it's just like, excuse me, we have to be in a constant state of prayer. Or, you know, we have to maintain an attitude of prayer at all times. And, you know, that means there's this constant, you know, communication with God. Whether that's like driving in your car, working, like there's this, you know, knowing that your strength comes from God and that you are constantly, you know, leaning into that and calling on him throughout anything in your day, you know, always just having him at the forefront. So we need to maintain that attitude. And, you know, that doesn't mean we're like nailing praying 24/7, you know, it means that, you know, that we're reflecting on God, praising him for what he has blessed us with, and always keeping him at the focus. So that's like the first part, you know. It's almost like, you know how we say like going to the scriptures is like sharpening your weaponry and everything. It's just like we are constantly talking to the one who can, you know, strengthen us kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's a reminder also that we can't fight this battle on our own. If we're going to rely on our own strength, like, we're going to shrivel up and die in, like, 2.5 seconds. Like, we're not going to...
2.5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly 2.5 seconds. We're not going to be able to make it out of the battle alive. And I was reading in... I promise it'll make sense. It's not going to make sense at first, but it's going to make sense.
I feel like that's like the
99% of my brain.
Well, yeah, but the motto of our podcast is just like, I promise it'll make sense.
Yeah, it's just because it's new. I'm wrapping up the evangelism study with the Daily Grace Co.
Okay, yeah.
And something that I read maybe yesterday or the day before, because it's getting into apologetics now, and it's like, it references the armor. Maybe it was in the Armor of God study. I don't know. Anyway.
One of the studies.
We have this armor, and we're out fighting the battle, but those of our friends, family, whoever that are not saved, they don't have this armor.
Yeah.
So our prayer reminds us that we're not doing it ourselves. So we need to also be praying for others, that they would also be able to receive this armor, to realize that they don't have to fight the fight by themselves.
Yeah.
So I forget which study it was in. It was really great though. So I don't remember which one.
No, yeah. And so that leads to like the second part. So first one where it's we have to be in perpetual prayer, and then the second one is petitionary prayer. So which goes off of, you know, your point there where we're praying for others as well. So not only are we in a constant, you know, communication with God to, you know, be our strength and get us through the day, but we are also called to bring our requests to God. You know, going there's a verse, James 1:5. it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. So we are called to like come to God, you know, asking for that wisdom, you know, praying for, you know, if we're in any situation. So in talking about spiritual warfare, so if we're struggling with something in our path, like temptation or something, you know, praying for that wisdom, praying for God to be the one to take us through it. And it says, and he will give it. He wants to give it, you know, and it will be given to him. And then it says in 2 Corinthians 10:4, for the weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. And so this is definitely like, you know, talking about prayer where it's just like, yeah, I mean, in all the pieces of armor where it's just like, none of it is like obviously physical pieces of armor. It's a very like spiritual and very like, not physical. Am I making sense? Because I feel like I'm just kind of talking and I'm trying to put my thoughts together. So we are to bring requests to God. Anything we are going through, he is our answer. He is our strength. We cannot battle on our own, but need to pull our strength from God. He wants us to come to him with these requests, small or big. And so that means praying for ourselves, but also praying for others and their needs and concerns, just like our needs and concerns. But also a super important thing is we need to base our prayer on scripture. You know, there's that aspect, like, yeah, we can pray and request, you know, X, Y, and Z, but we have to be looking to the scriptures on, you know, what to be praying for or how to be praying, you know, and by praying with the scriptures, it's, you know, asking God's will to be done in our lives. It's not like my will, my way kind of thing. We have to be praying for God's will.
Yeah. We're not called to keep our prayer life tucked away in a closet. Like, we're not just supposed to, like, keep our prayer requests to ourselves. And this is where I was like, oh, okay. You know, it's important to talk to other Christians about what you need prayer for, because it's also added accountability. And when you know that other people are praying for you and God sees like, oh, like she really wants this, or she like is really praying about this, like it's a big deal. You know, like somebody that used to be in our young adults group would always say, if you're not praying about it, do you really want it? You know, and this is not to say that like it's an immediate response, like you praying for, when Paul was praying for what was it, a thorn in his side or something like that? But God was like, no, like, this is my plan. So it's just like, it's not an instant gratification. You know, like when we pray, it's not, God, remove this from me, and then it's automatically removed. You know, it's, we're going to pray and we're going to seek God's will, and God's will is going to be done no matter what. So, prayer and perseverance. I think you had mentioned the word. Oh, there was a word that you used before. Being in constant prayer. Perpetual. Yeah. It gives us hope and direction. It's not just like pray for one thing and then never pray about it ever again. So that long-term perseverance, it gives us hope and gives us direction. It's not just to check off a box saying like, okay, I prayed for so-and-so today. Like, it's a long-term thing, and it helps us build the connection to be closer to God because we're praying to Jesus, who intercedes and then brings a request to God.
I mean, look at Habakkuk. In the first chapter of, you know, he's coming to God in prayer, and it's like it's not his first time coming to God, and God didn't answer him. But he still prayed, and he still came before God, and, you know, he still, you know, persevered in that, and God finally answered him, you know. But that's how we need to be, where it's just like, yeah, we might not get our answer right away, but we still have to be relying on him and knowing that he will be faithful in, you know, answering in his perfect time, and, you know, he is faithful to, you know, take us through whatever we're going through. we can't be so closed-minded and be like, no, it has to work out this way, when God's, no, I have this entirely different plan.
Yeah.
So we have to continuously, and it's just like, even if it's the same thing every single day, no, we're called to pray over and over again.
Perseverance also teaches us that all of us that truly find salvation in Jesus will be kept by God's saving grace and will persevere until the end of their lives. So it's a long-term commitment that we are making. Yeah. And this confidence that we have anchors us through any trials and tribulations that we might face, and that we know that we can just pray and talk to God about it. And however long the season is, like, that's going to be our test of perseverance. And it looks like pressing towards goals, pressing towards what God's will is, even when people try to belittle it. Yeah. Even when people say, like, oh, why are you doing like that? Like, that's not normal, or that's not like the conventional way of doing something, but you're in God's plan. Like, that's perseverance.
Yeah.
So, and Paul, at the end, I feel like he's really urging the church of Ephesus. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Ephesus.
Yep. Ephesus.
He's really telling them to, like, hey, go out and, like, push the gospel forward. And this is, like, another instance of prayer and perseverance, because he doesn't tell them to just, he doesn't explain the armor and is like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is the armor. So he also doesn't say, like, okay, you have this armor, now you're not going to face any trials, or you're not going to face any problems. Like, you're going to put this armor on, and it's going to protect you from all the trials that you're going to face. Mm-hmm. So it's a long-term battle that we're going to be in for, and there's going to be ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But that's where prayer comes in.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, like we've kind of said before, prayer is just showing how we recognize we can't do it on our own. Mm-hmm. We recognize that we need, God, and we need, him to be the one to ultimately, help us through. So it's just like coming to God just shows that in our lives, and allows us to, lean on him more. It is one of the most powerful weapons. It really is. And it's something that we need to be praying. We need to be praying for ourselves, for our walks and with Christ and everything. And then for others as well. We need to be coming to one another, like we were saying, with, struggles or whatever. We're here for that. And, if you're weak right now in something, I will pray for you in that way. So I will, in that sense, like, go to battle kind of to help you, and vice versa, and that's all of us as Christians, what we have to constantly be doing for one another. And, it is one of the most important, weapons that we have, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Paul talks about it so much. It is very powerful.
Yeah, because I mean, he even at the end where he asked them to pray for him,
You find a lot of his prison letters, I think all of his prison letters, they either open with, like, I'm praying for, so-and-so, or they end with, like, I'm praying for so-and-so. Like, he's always in prayer, and he's always, like, hanging out with God. So
yeah,
that's how I'm trying to be.
Perpetual prayer. We have to, and it's like I love when I drive. I'm definitely the type of person, I like taking the long way home. Like, I love driving. I love being by myself when I drive. Like, that is my time. I love getting lost in my thoughts. Like, I'm a very internal person. I'm not much of, I mean, we talked about this, I think, in the last episode. Yeah. I'm a talker, but I'm not a talker. Mm-hmm. But I love when I could just sit in my thoughts. And sometimes when I'm driving or anything, just like, having those moments where you're just in prayer, or, anything where you're walking or, working or whatever, just knowing that you have, God to pray to. And it's just like, you really, as a Christian, you never feel alone.
Yeah.
You genuinely never do. And so I love those moments where I could just sit quietly, you know, maybe I'll have music in my car or whatever. But sometimes I love just driving in the silence and finding myself just praying, you know, finding myself getting lost in prayer and just like, you know, being grateful for that open communication.
Yeah.
It's like always there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, hey, do you have time now? Like, hey, can I talk to you now? Yeah, no, it's not like that. It's just like it's always there and you feel it. And it's a great feeling because as a Christian you don't feel alone, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's so important that you always pray throughout your day. You know, not just, you know, at night or not just like in the morning or in your study time. It's you have to always be in prayer because listen, like if you don't, you're more susceptible to, you know, the enemy. You're more susceptible to temptation and falling in trials. You have to constantly keep that, you know, almost guard up. You know, keep the one who is going to help you through out all the battles, you know, close. It's like if you think of it in like a physical, like if you were to get into a physical fight, you would want to, you know, call like your biggest friend, strongest friend, you know, kind of thing. And it's just like, or one who knows how to fight. One is just like, and that's how I see it too. Where it's just like in spiritual warfare, like you don't want to lean on yourself. Like you want to call on that bigger person kind of thing. And so, yeah, so that's really how it is. But yeah, prayer is important.
For sure.
Pray without ceasing in 1 Thessalonians 5:17.
Yes.
Pray without ceasing. Always talk with God because it's very important. It's been a day, guys. It's been a day for sure. But yeah, we are always happy to be here. We're always happy to record new episodes. Yeah. We are very, you know, excited to continue. So tomorrow, it will be tomorrow.
Tomorrow for us.
Tomorrow for us. Next week for you guys.
No, 2 weeks for y'all.
Yes, because this week will be this. Next week will be that. Yeah. We will see you then.
Bye.